The fourth share. No one ever plans to be the one who gets left behind. They just don't see it coming. Evan Cole believed in loyalty, the kind you build late at night in cheap diners with burnt coffee and big ideas, the kind where four men sit in a booth and swear that whatever happens, they walk out together. Evan believed that right up until the vault door slammed shut. The robbery was supposed to be clean. Not easy, just clean. A regional bank in western Pennsylvania, small enough to be overlooked, big enough to move serious cash. No alarms tied directly to the city grid, no overnight security, no heroics. That was Marcus Vale's idea. Marcus always had ideas. Marcus was the planner, the voice everyone listened to. Tall, calm, always smiling like he knew something you didn't. Dylan Price was muscle, former college linebacker, built like a freight train, soft-spoken, loyal to whoever stood closest. Noah Reeves handled logistics, cars, routes, fake IDs, burner phones, clean exits. He thought in maps and angles. And Evan was the inside man. He didn't wear suits or bark orders. He studied cameras, shift schedules, employee habits. He noticed the things others missed. Together, they called themselves brothers. The night of the robbery, rain washed the streets clean, the kind of rain that erased footprints and conscience at the same time. They moved fast, masks on, gloves tight, breath steady. Everything worked until it didn't. The vault took longer than expected. 30 seconds became 90. 90 became panic. Evan was the one closest to the door when the silent alarm tripped. A soft red blink, almost polite. Marcus saw it first. Change of plan, Marcus whispered. That's when Evan knew something was wrong. They were supposed to leave together, but when the police sirens cut through the rain, Marcus didn't hesitate. He slammed the emergency lock, sealing the vault's corridor, with Evan still inside. Evan pounded the steel door, screaming until his throat burned. Outside, engines roared, tires screamed, and just like that, his brothers were gone. The trial was fast, too fast. Evidence appeared where it shouldn't have. Witnesses remembered Evan's face a little too clearly. The others vanished. Marcus, Dylan, and Noah were never officially named, never charged. Evan took the fall. 22 years. The judge called it a cautionary tale. Evan called it betrayal. Prison strips you down in stages. First, your clothes, then your name, then your hope. Evan became inmate C4179. Years blurred together. He learned how silence worked, how favors were traded, how anger, if sharpened slowly, could become something precise. He didn't forget the robbery, he didn't forget the door, and he never forgot the promise they broke. 14 years later, Evan walked out of prison with a cardboard box and $42. The world felt louder, brighter, crueler. He didn't look for revenge right away. He looked for proof. Marcus Vale was easy to find. Luxury condo in Miami, glass walls, ocean view, a venture capital firm with his name on the door. Dylan Price owned a private security company, high-end contracts, government connections. Noah Reeves lived quieter but richer. Tech investments, offshore accounts, a house that cost more than the bank they robbed. They hadn't just survived, they had thrived. On his years. Evan sat across the street from Marcus's building one evening, watching the lights turn on floor by floor. He felt something settle inside him. Not rage, not sadness, clarity. They had framed him for a crime they committed, so he would return the favor. Revenge wasn't about violence, it was about precision, about letting the law do exactly what it had done to him, only this time to the right people. Evan smiled for the first time in years. They thought the story was over. They thought the fourth share was buried. They were wrong. Very wrong.
The ghost in the ledger. Evan didn't go straight for Marcus, Dylan, or Noah. That's what a hothead would do. Evan wasn't a hothead anymore. Prison had burned that out of him and left something colder behind. He went for something else first. Their comfort, their routines, the little predictable habits rich people collect, like expensive watches. Because routines are doors too, and Evan had learned exactly what happens when a door closes. He rented a room above a Cuban bakery in Miami. Cash only, no paperwork, no questions. The air always smelled like sugar and coffee and fresh bread. It almost felt kind, which made the bitterness in his chest stand out even sharper. From his window, he could see Marcus Vale's condo tower in the distance, a clean blade of glass against the sky. Marcus lived high up, literally and emotionally. He'd built a life where the past couldn't reach him. Evan watched the tower at night, lights switching off one by one until only Marcus's floor stayed lit. A man who didn't sleep easily, or a man who didn't sleep alone. Evan didn't care which. He only cared that Marcus still lived like he had nothing to fear. That had to change. Evan's first move wasn't loud. It was paper, the kind that ruins people without spilling a drop. He spent his first week walking around the city, not like a tourist, but like a shadow. He kept his head down, shoulders loose, expression neutral. He listened more than he spoke, and when he did speak, he spoke softly. In prison, the loud ones got noticed. The noticed ones got hurt. He found a small accounting firm tucked behind a strip mall, the kind that handled consulting for men who liked their money quiet. The sign out front was faded, like it didn't want attention. Inside, a receptionist looked him up and down. "Can I help you?" Evan smiled, small and harmless. "I'm looking for someone who understands discretion." The receptionist's eyes sharpened just a fraction. She nodded once and disappeared into the back. A moment later, an older man stepped out, with careful hands and a tired face. He didn't smile. "What do you need?" Evan leaned closer and lowered his voice. "I need to know how rich people hide money," he said, "and how they get sloppy." The man's expression didn't change, but his gaze went colder. "That's not what we do here." Evan shrugged like it was nothing. "Then I'm in the wrong place." He turned to leave. "Wait," the man said. Evan stopped. The man stared at him for a long moment, weighing something invisible. Then he said, "What's your name?" Evan didn't hesitate. "Eli Carter." A new name, smooth and temporary. The man nodded, like he'd accepted the lie as a handshake. "Come back tomorrow, 10 a.m. Evan smiled again. "Thank you." As he walked out, he felt something familiar. That quiet click in the air. A door unlocking. The next morning, Evan sat in a back office with the older man, who introduced himself as Gordon Lasky. Gordon wasn't friendly, but he wasn't stupid either. He slid a legal pad across the desk. "Tell me what you actually want," Gordon said. Evan topped the pad once. "I want to destroy 3 men," he said, without touching them. Gordon's eyebrows lifted, just barely. "Why?" Evan's eyes stayed calm. "Because they destroyed me first." Gordon leaned back, exhaling through his nose. "You're a cop?" Evan laughed once, dry and humorless. "No." "Then what are you?" Evan's voice softened, and for the first time, something raw flickered through. "I'm the guy they used and threw away." Gordon stared at him. Then he said, "You're asking for advice on how to commit crimes." Evan shook his head. "No," he said. "I'm asking how criminals get caught." That landed differently. Gordon's eyes narrowed. "Say that again?" Evan spoke slowly, deliberate. "Rich criminals don't get caught because they're careless. They get caught because they get comfortable, and somebody makes them look guilty in a way the law can't ignore." Gordon didn't answer right away. He looked at Evan like he was seeing the shape of something dangerous. Then he said, "You're not helping me plant evidence." Evan nodded. "I'm not asking you to. I'm asking you to tell me where a lie breaks." Gordon's mouth tightened. "And what do I get out of this?" Evan reached into his jacket, pulled out a folded envelope, and slid it across the desk. Inside was cash, not flashy, not huge, but enough for Gordon's eyes to blink. Gordon stared at the money, then at Evan. Evan kept his tone even. "This is for your time, not for your hands." Gordon stared longer, then finally said, "Fine." He topped the legal pod. "Start with their habits. Start with the way they move money, because anyone with that kind of lifestyle has trails they think are invisible." Evan's chest loosened slightly. Not relief, momentum. Over the next few days, Evan built a map, not of streets, but of connections. Marcus Vale's company wasn't just investments, it was influence. He had lawyers, advisors, consultants, a publicist who curated his image like a museum exhibit. Marcus the philanthropist, Marcus the visionary, Marcus the man who came from nothing. Evan almost laughed at that. Dylan Price's security company had government contracts. That meant background checks, oversight, paperwork. And Noah Reeves. Noah was the quietest, which made him the most interesting, because quiet men often hide the deepest secrets. Evan discovered that Noah had bought a small shipping warehouse outside Tampa through a chain of shell companies, not illegal on paper, just suspicious enough to smell like old smoke. A warehouse was a perfect place to store things, or hide things, or erase things. Evan circled it on his map. Then he circled something else, a name in Noah's network, a woman. Camilla Hart, Noah's executive assistant, according to public profiles, but her digital footprint was too clean, too controlled, like someone had scrubbed it. Ivan learned the trick of it in prison. Some people delete their past because it's embarrassing. Others delete it because it's dangerous. Evan wrote her name down twice. That Friday night, Evan followed Marcus. Not inside, not close, just enough to watch. Marcus left his office in a black car, driver in a suit. They passed neon-lit restaurants, clubs, waterfront bars. Marcus ended up at a private event space, the kind with velvet ropes and quiet security. Evan stayed outside, blending in with the flow of people. He wore a baseball cap low, plain clothes, nothing memorable. He watched Marcus step inside, smiling for cameras, shaking hands, holding a glass like he owned the room. Evan's jaw tightened. He remembered Marcus, wet hair, mask on, whispering, change of plan. He remembered the vault door. He remembered being alone. Evan turned away before his anger could make him stupid, because anger makes noise, and Evan needed silence. He didn't approach Marcus yet. Instead, he approached the city, because cities talk. You just have to know where to listen. He went to a late-night diner near the docks where workers came in after long shifts, smelling like salt and exhaustion. He ordered coffee, sat near the counter, and listened. A man 2 seats down complained about the new security at the port. "Price security," the man said, shaking his head. "Dylan Price got the contract. Cameras everywhere now." Evan's ears sharpened. Price security. That meant Dylan's company had access to something valuable. Information. schedules, blind spots. Evan took a slow sip of coffee. A second man leaned in, lowering his voice. They say Price doesn't even run it day to day. He's mostly in Vegas now. New penthouse, new girlfriend, fancy life. Evan stared at his coffee. Vegas. Of course, some men run from their sins by surrounding themselves with noise. Evan returned to his room above the bakery and opened the cardboard box he'd carried out of prison. Inside were a few things: old letters, a worn paperback, and one folded photo, creased and faded. It was the four of them, years ago, before everything. Marcus grinning, Dylan holding up a beer, Noah smirking like he was too cool for the picture, and Evan smiling like he didn't know the cost. Evan stared at it for a long time. Then he took the photo and tore it into 3 pieces. Not 4, 3. He let the pieces fall into the trash. He didn't need nostalgia, he needed results. That night, Evan made his first real move, not toward Marcus or Dylan or Noah, but to a system they trusted. He walked into a 24-hour print shop, the kind that did business cards and brochures for tourists. He kept his posture casual, his voice mild. "I need something designed," he told the clerk. The clerk chewed gum, bored. "What kind?" Evan placed a simple card on the counter, blank, no logo. "I need a letterhead for a compliance audit," he said. The clerk's eyes lifted, interested now. "Audit for who?" Evan didn't answer directly. "For
The first one to blink. Camilla Hart didn't bluff. Evan knew that the moment the city started changing around him, not loudly, not obviously, but in the way shadows began to linger where they hadn't before. The first sign came in the form of silence. Gordon Lasky didn't answer Evan's call. That alone was enough to raise alarms. Gordon always answered, even if it was just to say, "Not today." Evan waited an hour, then 2. Then he walked. He didn't take the direct route to the accounting office. He doubled back twice, crossed streets randomly, ducked into a convenience store, watched reflections in glass. No tails. Still, he felt eyes. When he reached the strip mall, the lights inside Gordon's office were off. Middle of the afternoon. Wrong. Evan stepped closer and saw the sign taped to the door. Closed until further notice. No explanation, no apology, just absence. Evan stood there for a long moment, hands in his pockets, heart steady. Camilla hadn't threatened him. She'd simply started erasing his tools. That meant one thing. She was protecting someone, and people only protect what they're afraid to lose. Evan adjusted the plan. Plans were living things. They had to bend or they broke. He shifted his focus to the weakest variable. Dylan Price. Vegas is a city built on illusion. Everyone is pretending to be someone else, and nobody asks why. That made it perfect. Evan flew in under a different name, paid cash, checked into a cheap hotel far from the strip, the kind with flickering lights and thin walls. Dylan lived high above the noise, in a penthouse that smelled like money and regret. Evan didn't go near it, not yet. Instead, he went where Dylan was careless. Bars, private poker rooms, high-limit tables where men talked too much because they believed money made them invisible. Evan dressed the part. Not rich, just comfortable. He watched Dylan from across a room one night, laughing too loud, surrounded by people who wanted something from him. Dylan drank like a man who didn't fear consequences. That fearlessness was the crack. Evan made his introduction by accident. He bumped into Dylan near the restroom hallway, spilled a drink, and apologized quickly. Dylan looked annoyed, then dismissive. "Watch it," Dylan said. "Sorry, man, didn't see you." Dylan snorted, clearly. Evan smiled, easy, harmless. "Drinks on me?" Dylan hesitated, then shrugged. "Why not?" They sat at the bar, talked about nothing. Sports, business, the cost of living these days. Evan listened. Dylan talked. He always had. After the 3rd drink, Evan leaned in slightly. "Crazy thing," he said casually, "how audits work." Dylan stiffened. "Just a fraction." Evan pretended not to notice. "My cousin went through an audit, said it wasn't even about money at first, more like pressure." Dylan took a long sip. "What kind of pressure?" Evan shrugged. "The kind that makes people remember things they thought were buried." Dylan stared into his glass, then laughed, sharp and humorless. "Yeah, funny how that works." That was the blink. 2 days later, Evan's burner phone buzzed. Unknown number. He answered. Dylan's voice came through, low and tight. "We need to talk." Evan went a pause stretch. "About what?" "You know what," Dylan said. "You were at the bar." Evan smiled to himself. "I'm at a lot of bars." Another pause. Then Dylan said, "You want money?" Evan closed his eyes. Of course, that was always the first offer. "No," Evan said. "I want truth." Dylan exhaled sharply. "You don't understand what you're messing with." Evan's voice hardened. "I understand exactly what I'm messing with." Silence. Then Dylan said quietly, "Marcus didn't tell us he was locking you in." Evan's jaw tightened. "Didn't he?" Evan said. Dylan didn't answer. That answer was enough. Evan ended the call without another word. He didn't need Dylan's confession. He needed Dylan's fear. Fear made people move, and Dylan moved fast. Too fast. 3 days later, Marcus Vale's office was raided. Not officially,
Not with badges, with lawyers. Expensive ones. Someone had leaked concerns to investors, questions about old capital, unexplained growth, dormant accounts. Marcus stood in a glass conference room, smiling tightly while men in suits flipped through documents. His phone buzzed non-stop. Calls from Dylan, calls from Noah. He didn't answer. Noah, meanwhile, made his own mistake. He moved something. Evan saw it happen through a shipping manifest that crossed the wrong desk. A container left the Tampa warehouse at 3 in the morning, unscheduled, unlogged. Evan stared at the record. That was panic, and panic always left trails. Evan didn't intercept the container. He let it go, because sometimes the smartest move was letting someone hang themselves with their own rope. Instead, he made a call, not to Camilla, to someone she couldn't control, a mid-level federal compliance officer with a gambling problem and a taste for feeling important. Evan fed him just enough. Not accusations, patterns, irregularities, coincidences, the kind that gnaw at a man's curiosity. The officer listened, then asked questions. Evan answered carefully. By the end of the call, Evan knew something had shifted. Not enough to trigger arrests, enough to start files. Once files start, they never stop. That night, Evan received another call. Camilla again. Her voice wasn't calm this time. "What do you want?" she asked. Evan leaned back in his chair. "For them," he said, "to feel what I felt." Camilla laughed softly. "You think they'll protect you? The moment this turns real, they'll sacrifice you without blinking." Evan smiled. "They already did. I survived it." Camilla's voice dropped. "You won't survive me." Evan leaned forward. "You already failed. You noticed me too late." He hung up. Across the country, 3 men sat alone in 3 different rooms. Marcus staring at a skyline he no longer trusted. Dylan pacing a penthouse that suddenly felt too exposed. Noah watching security footage on repeat, convinced someone was inside his walls. They all thought they were being hunted by the system. None of them realized the truth. The system was just the weapon. Evan was the hand holding it. Evan folded his map and placed it back in the box. 3 names, 1 plan, and a final phase coming into focus. He whispered, almost gently, "Now you start falling." Bloodless betrayals. The first betrayal didn't come with shouting. It came with paperwork. Marcus Vale had always trusted systems more than people. People lied. Systems followed rules. So when the pressure mounted, when investors started calling and lawyers stopped smiling, Marcus did what he always did. He isolated the variables. And in his mind, the weakest variable was Noah. Noah handled logistics. Logistics left trails. Marcus convinced himself that if anyone had slipped, it was Noah. If anyone had kept something off the books, it wasn't him. That belief became comfort. Comfort became action. Marcus called Camilla Hart late at night, not on her usual phone, on a line only 2 people knew existed. "I need Noah audited," Marcus said, quietly. Camilla didn't answer right away. "You're asking me to burn a bridge," she said finally. Marcus's voice stayed smooth. "I'm asking you to protect the structure." Camilla exhaled. "I'll look," she said. "No promises." Marcus hung up feeling lighter. He didn't know Evan was smiling 3 states away. Noah Reeves noticed the shift immediately. Emails slowed, calls stopped getting returned. Then a federal inquiry landed on his desk. Not a charge, not an accusation, a request for clarification. Those were worse. Noah read the letter 3 times, hands steady, pulse not. He knew exactly where this was coming from. Marcus. The thought made something cold bloom in his chest. He didn't call Marcus. He called Dylan. Dylan answered drunk. "What?" he slurred. "They're coming for me," Noah said. "This didn't come from nowhere." Dylan laughed bitterly. "Welcome to the party." Noah lowered his voice. "Marcus did this." Silence. Then Dylan said, "You sure?" "I'm certain," Noah said. "And if he's offering me up, you're next." Dylan sobered fast. "You got proof?" "No," Noah said, "but I've got leverage." That word hung heavy. Dylan swallowed. "I'm listening." 2 days later, an anonymous packet arrived at a regulatory office in Washington. Inside were transaction summaries, shell company diagrams, and a narrative that gently, carefully, pointed away from Noah and toward Marcus. Not a lie, just a framing. Marcus moved money. He'd always moved money. Now it was presented differently. Now it looked intentional. Now it looked criminal. Evan watched it unfold from afar, reading updates through quiet channels. He didn't push. He didn't rush. He let the men do what men always did when cornered. They ate each other. Marcus was furious. He called Dylan first. No answer. He called Noah, straight to voicemail. That was new. That was dangerous. Marcus finally called Camilla. "They're leaking," Marcus snapped. "Someone's turning." Camilla's voice was controlled but strained. "I warned you. Fear makes people reckless." Marcus clenched his jaw. "Fix it." Camilla paused. "There may not be a way to fix it anymore." Marcus slammed the phone down. For the first time in years, his hands were shaking. That night, Dylan Price made his mistake. He drank too much, he talked too much, and he trusted the wrong person. A woman at the bar listened closely as Dylan ranted about ungrateful partners and old sins that won't stay buried. She smiled. She nodded. She recorded everything.
By morning, the recording was already moving through quiet channels. By afternoon, Dylan's security contracts were under review. By evening, Dylan was alone. Evan stood in a parking garage across from Dylan's building, watching the lights go out one by one. This was the moment where fear tipped into desperation, and desperation always reached for a weapon. Evan's phone buzzed. A message. Dylan wants to meet. Evan stared at the screen, then typed back. Where? They met in a deserted warehouse near the edge of the city. Concrete, echoes, the kind of place secrets liked. Dylan looked worse than Evan remembered. Older, heavier, eyes darting. You did this, Dylan said. Evan didn't deny it. I reminded the world who you were, Evan said. Dylan's voice cracked. We didn't mean for you to take the fall. Evan stepped closer. But you let me. Dylan swallowed. Marcus pushed it, he said quickly. He said it was the only way. Evan studied him. Did you argue? Dylan looked away. That was answer enough. I can help you, Dylan said. I've got access, info, names. Evan nodded slowly. Too late. Dylan's breathing sped up. You don't get it, Dylan said. Camilla will kill you. Evan leaned in, voice quiet. She already tried. Dylan froze. What do you want? Dylan whispered. Evan held his gaze. I want you to testify, Evan said, when the time comes. Dylan laughed panically. They'll destroy me. Evan's eyes hardened. They already are. Silence swallowed the warehouse. Dylan sagged. Okay, he said. Okay, I'll talk. Evan stepped back. Good, because Dylan wasn't supposed to survive clean. He was supposed to break. As Evan walked away, he felt something shift inside him. Not satisfaction. Not yet. This wasn't the end. It was the collapse of the middle. 3 men had walked into the robbery. 1 man went to prison. Now the scales were tipping back. That night, Marcus Vale poured himself a drink he didn't finish. Noah Reeves burned documents in a steel barrel behind his warehouse. Dylan Price stared at his phone, waiting for a call that would ruin him. And Evan Cole sat alone, calm, patient, because the final phase was coming. And this time, the law would do exactly what it was designed to do.
The woman who closed doors. Camilla Hart understood one thing better than any of them. Control wasn't power. Timing was. By the time Marcus realized the structure was collapsing, Camilla had already moved 3 steps ahead. She wasn't loyal to Marcus, or Noah, or Dylan. She was loyal to survival. And survival meant cutting weight. Camilla sat alone in her office, lights dimmed, walls lined with framed degrees and awards that meant nothing now. On her screen were 3 folders. Vale, Reeves, Price. She opened Dylan's first. Sloppy, drunk, recorded, useless. She closed it. Noah's file came next. Too cautious, too paranoid. He'd survive longer, but crack deeper. Then Marcus. Camilla stared at Marcus's file longer than the others, because Marcus believed in Camilla. That made him dangerous. She picked up a secure phone and dialed. Noah answered on the second ring. You're being framed, Camilla said calmly. Noah laughed, sharp and tired. By Marcus, he said. Yes, Camilla replied. And no. Noah went quiet. Camilla continued. Marcus started this, Evan Cole finished it, and Dylan is already broken. Noah exhaled slowly. What do you want? Camilla leaned back. I want immunity, she said, and I want you to give them Marcus. Noah's voice tightened. You're asking me to kill him. I'm asking you to sacrifice him, Camilla corrected, legally. Silence. Then Noah said, and what do I get? Camilla smiled faintly. To walk away, she said, with your life intact. Evan sensed the shift before he saw it. The air changed, movements accelerated, files that had been dormant suddenly moved fast. This wasn't panic anymore. This was triage. Someone was choosing who lived. Evan circled Camilla's name again, twice, hard. That night, Evan received an encrypted email. No sender, no greeting, just a meeting location and a time. Tomorrow, midnight. Evan smiled. Camilla didn't threaten anymore. She negotiated. That meant she was cornered. They met in a parking structure overlooking the bay. Wind howled through open concrete levels. City lights shimmered below. Camilla stood near the edge, coat tight around her shoulders, calm as ever. You're impressive, she said as Evan approached. You're late, Evan replied. She smiled. Fashionable. They stood facing each other, 2 people who understood exactly how dangerous the other was. You want them destroyed, she said. I want out. Evan tilted his head. You helped frame me. Camilla didn't deny it. Yes, she said, and I helped keep you alive. Evan's jaw tightened. Camilla continued. Prison is chaos. Chaos kills weak men. You weren't weak. Evan said you monitored me. Camilla nodded. Marcus wanted you gone, permanently. Evan's chest tightened, slow and heavy. And you stopped it? Camilla corrected. I delayed it, because dead men don't scare people. Silence stretched. Finally, Evan spoke. You don't walk away clean. Camilla met his gaze. No one ever does. She slid a flash drive across the concrete. Everything, she said. Transactions, calls, instructions, including Marcus ordering the fault lock. Evan stared at the drive. That puts you in prison too. Camilla's voice softened. Only if I'm the one they're still angry at. Evan understood. She wasn't escaping justice, she was redirecting it. And Noah, Evan asked. Camilla's lips tightened. He survives, barely. Evan considered it. Justice wasn't clean, revenge never was. But this was balance. Far away, Marcus Vale was arrested quietly. No cameras, no spectacle, just handcuffs in a private office, while lawyers stared helplessly. Marcus didn't resist, he didn't ask questions, but as they led him away, he whispered one name. Evan. Dylan Price testified 2 days later, broken, sweating, honest for the first time in his life. Noah negotiated, gave pieces, lost everything else. And Camilla Hart vanished, legally absolved, socially erased, exactly how she preferred it. Evan stood outside the courthouse when it was over. The sun was warm. The air smelled clean. Reporters shouted names he no longer answered to. A man asked him how it felt to get revenge. He paused, then said, "It wasn't revenge." The man leaned in. What was it? Evan looked at the building behind him. It was closure. That night, Evan returned to the ocean. He took the old photo, the one he'd kept hidden. 4 men, 4 smiles. He folded it once, then let it drift into the water. Some men get justice, some get revenge. Evan got something rarer. He got his life back.
The cost of winning. Victory didn't arrive like Evan expected. There was no rush, no relief, just a strange quiet, like the moment after a storm when you're not sure if it's really over. Marcus Vale's conviction made headlines for exactly 1 week. Financial crimes rarely held attention. No blood, no chase scenes, just charts, testimony, and a man in a tailored suit staring straight ahead as the judge read a sentence that would erase the rest of his life. Marcus never looked at Evan, not once. That hurt more than Evan expected. Dylan Price went into protective custody. He gave interviews through lawyers, spoke about poor decisions and toxic loyalty. The public saw a fallen businessman. Evan saw a coward who finally learned fear. Dylan would survive prison, but he'd never sleep without lights again. Noah Reeves vanished from the public eye. No trial, no cameras, just quiet asset seizures, sealed agreements, and a suburban house sold below market value. Noah took a job overseas under a different name. Evan knew, because Noah sent him a message. Just 2 words. You won. Evan deleted it. Winning wasn't something he wanted to celebrate. The city moved on. That's what cities do. They absorb damage, adjust, and keep breathing. Evan rented a new apartment under his real name for the first time in years. He bought furniture. Cheap, functional, nothing that suggested permanence. He tried sleeping through the night. It didn't work. Freedom felt unfamiliar, too open, too quiet. In prison, every sound had meaning, every look mattered. Out here, nothing demanded anything from him, and that terrified him. One afternoon, Evan visited Gordon Lasky's old office. The sign was gone, the windows dark. A new business was moving in. Evan stood there longer than necessary. He wondered how many lives Gordon had helped ruin, quietly, before he finally stepped away. Evan wondered if that would be him someday. That night, Evan noticed something he hadn't felt in years. Guilt. Not for what he'd done, for how carefully he'd done it. He hadn't pulled the trigger, but he'd aimed every weapon. A knock came to his door just after midnight. Evan froze. Old instincts screamed. He checked the peephole. A woman stood there. Mid-30s, plain clothes, calm eyes. Law enforcement. He opened the door. "Is Evan Cole?" she asked. "Yes." "I'm Special Agent Laura Bennett," she said. "May I come in?" Evan stepped aside. This was it, or so he thought. They sat at his small kitchen table. Laura placed a folder between them. "You weren't charged," she said. "You were exonerated." "I know." "You weren't suspected," she continued, "but you were noticed." Evan said nothing. Laura studied him. "You understand systems," she said. "How people hide, how pressure works." Evan leaned back. "And?" Laura met his gaze. "You could use someone like you," she said. Silence. Then Evan laughed, not amused, just tired. "You want me to hunt people like me?" Laura didn't flinch. "I want you to help us stop people like them," she said. Evan looked at the folder. Inside were photos, names, patterns, familiar shapes, old ghosts. Evan closed the folder. "I'm not your weapon," he said. Laura nodded. "I didn't think you were," she said. "But weapons don't feel guilt. You do." She stood. "If you change your mind," she said, sliding a card across the table, "call." She left without another word. Evan stared at the card long after she was gone. The irony tasted bitter. He'd destroyed 3 men by understanding the system. Now the system wanted him back. He walked to the window, city lights glowing below. Freedom wasn't peace, it was responsibility. And that might be the heaviest sentence of all. Evan whispered into the empty room. I didn't plan to survive, but he had, and survival demanded something next. When the past knocks. Evan didn't call Agent Bennett. Not that night. Not the next day. He let the card sit on the kitchen counter, face down, like it could watch him if he looked at it too long. Because calling her meant choosing a direction, and Evan had lived too long with directions chosen for him. Instead, he tried to build something normal.
He got a job at a small logistics firm, nothing glamorous, nothing permanent. Data entry, scheduling, the kind of work where nobody asked questions about your past as long as you showed up on time. For a few weeks, it almost worked. Almost. Then the dreams came back. Not prison dreams, robbery dreams. The vault door slamming shut, the red light blinking. Marcus's voice, calm and distant. Change of clan. Evan woke up soaked in sweat, heart racing, hands clenched like he was still pounding steel. Some nights he walked the streets until dawn just to feel movement again. That's when he noticed the man following him. At first, Evan thought it was paranoia. Old habits die hard. But the man appeared twice in the same week, always at a distance, always casual. Different clothes, same posture. Hands loose, eyes sharp. Professional. Evan tested it. He doubled back suddenly. The man stopped too late. Their eyes met. The man smiled. Not friendly. Acknowledging. Then he turned and walked away. That smile told Evan everything. Camilla Hart was back. 2 days later, Evan found the envelope. No stamp, no address. Slipped under his apartment door. Inside was a single photo, a prison visitation room. Evan, sitting across from someone. His mother. Her hands on the table. Her face older than he remembered. On the back of the photo, 3 words were written neatly. You still owe. Evan's chest tightened. Camilla didn't want revenge. She wanted leverage. The phone rang. Unknown number. Evan answered. Hello? Camilla's voice was smooth, almost amused. You really should have disappeared, she said. What do you want? Evan asked. Camilla sighed. I want insurance, she said, and you are very good insurance. Evan's voice went cold. You framed me once. And I saved you once, Camilla replied. We're even. No, we're not, Evan said. Camilla chuckled softly. I need you to do nothing, she said. Just stay quiet, stay out of sight, don't help law enforcement. Evan understood. Agent Bennett, the offer. Camilla had seen it coming. You're scared, Evan said. Camilla paused. Cautious, she corrected. You're scared of me turning, Evan said, because you know what I can do. Silence. Then Camilla said, I know exactly what you can do. That night, Evan visited his mother. She lived in a small assisted living facility, clean but impersonal. She smiled when she saw him, eyes soft. I saw you on the news, she said. I knew you'd be okay. Evan swallowed. They bothered you? He asked. She shook her head. No, she said, but someone asked questions. Evan's jaw tightened. He hugged her longer than necessary. When he left, his decision was made. Evan called Agent Bennett. She answered immediately. I was wondering when you'd call, she said. Camilla Hart is active, Evan said, and she's nervous. There was a pause. That's interesting, Bennett said. We lost her trail months ago. She doesn't like loose ends, Evan said, and I'm one. Bennett's voice sharpened. Are you in danger? Evan looked around his empty apartment. Yes, he said. Good, Bennett replied. Then we can work. They met in a safe location. No windows, no names, just 2 people who understood what they were risking. Evan laid everything out. Camilla's methods, her leverage, her need to stay ahead of the system. Bennett listened carefully. Then she said, we can't arrest her. Evan nodded. I know. She's too clean, Bennett continued. Too indirect. Evan smiled slightly. Then don't arrest her, he said. Expose her. Bennett leaned forward. How? Evan's eyes hardened. The same way she exposed me, by making her move. They set the trap carefully. Not by chasing Camilla, by baiting her. Evan leaked false cooperation rumors, quiet ones. Hints that he was helping federal task forces on offshore finance. Nothing traceable, just enough to trigger Camilla's instincts. She took the bait within 48 hours. Camilla called again. Her voice was sharp now. You lied to me. Evan stayed calm. I changed, he said. Camilla laughed, thin and angry. You think they'll protect you? Evan answered softly. I don't need protection. Camilla went silent. Then she said, where are you? Evan smiled. Close, he said. Camilla made her final mistake that night. She sent someone. Not to scare Evan, to erase him. That was enough. Enough for warrants, enough for jurisdiction, enough for the system to wake up. Evan watched from behind glass as agents moved in. Camilla wasn't screaming, she wasn't panicking, she was furious, because for the first time, she hadn't controlled the timing. As they led her away, she locked eyes with Evan. You and I are the same, she said. Evan shook his head. No, he replied. I chose to stop. The door closed. Silence returned. Evan exhaled, long and slow. The past had knocked. He'd answered, and for the first time, it didn't drag him back inside. After the fire. Camilla Hart's arrest didn't explode across the news. It crept. One sealed affidavit. One quiet transfer. One name suddenly removed from a dozen systems at once. That was how real power fell. Without witnesses. Evan watched from a distance as the legal machinery closed around her, not with satisfaction, with recognition. Camilla didn't look defeated. She looked relieved, like a woman who'd finally run out of places to run. Agent Bennett met Evan 3 days later. Same safe room, same quiet, different tone. She's not talking, not yet, Bennett said. Evan nodded. She won't, he said, not unless she has something to trade. Bennett studied him. You predicted all of this, she said. Evan shrugged. I lived inside her world, he said. I know how silence works.
Bennett slid a new file across the table. Inside were cases, old ones, men like Marcus, women like Camilla, networks that hid behind law firms and shell companies. You could help us dismantle this, Bennett said. Evan closed the folder slowly. I already dismantled one, he said. It cost me 14 years. Bennett didn't push. She just said, you don't owe anyone anything. Evan met her gaze. That's the problem, he said. I finally do. Camilla requested a meeting that afternoon. No lawyers, just Evan. Bennett warned him. She'll try to get inside your head. Evan smiled faintly. She already lives there. They met in a visitation room that smelled like disinfectant and old regret. Camilla sat behind the glass, hair pulled back, eyes sharp. Congratulations, she said. You finally learned timing. Evan sat down. You taught me, he said. Camilla tilted her head. So, are you here to finish it? Evan shook his head. I'm here to listen. Camilla laughed softly. You don't need me anymore. No, Evan agreed, but I think you need me. That landed. Camilla's smile faded. They'll bury me, she said. You know that. They'll sentence you, Evan replied. There's a difference. Camilla leaned closer. I can give them names, she said. Big ones. Evan didn't react. I know, he said. That's why they're afraid of you. Camilla's eyes narrowed. And you? Evan stood. I'm done being afraid, he said. He turned to leave. Camilla's voice followed him. You think this makes you better? Evan paused. No, he said quietly. It just makes me free. That night, Evan walked the city without looking over his shoulder, for the first time in years. No shadows felt heavy, no footsteps echoed. Freedom wasn't loud, it was simple. He visited his mother the next morning. They sat in the garden, sunlight warm on their faces. You seem lighter, she said. I am, Evan replied. She smiled. I always knew you'd find your way back. Evan looked at her hands. Older now, softer. I lost a lot of time, he said. She squeezed his fingers. Then don't lose the rest, she said. Evan quit his job, packed his apartment, and left the city with nothing but a bag and a choice. Not running, moving. Agent Bennett called once more. If you ever change your mind. Evan interrupted gently. I know, he said. He hung up. Some wars were meant to be won. Others were meant to be walked away from. As the train pulled out of the station, Evan stared out the window. The past was still there. It always would be, but it no longer owned him. He whispered, barely audible, I'm done. And for the first time, he meant it.
The last shadow. Evan didn't go far. He learned early that distance didn't erase memory. It only softened the noise. He settled in a small coastal town where nobody cared about the past as long as you showed up when you said you would. He took work repairing boats, sanding decks, fixing engines that refused to cooperate. Honest work, hard on the hands, good for the mind. At night, he slept deeper than he had in years. Not perfectly, but deeper. The trial transcripts became public that winter. Marcus Vale sentenced to decades. Dylan Price reduced, but never free. Camilla Hart, waiting. Evan read none of it. He didn't need reminders. Then the letter came. No return address, no stamp, just paper. That alone made Evan's chest tighten. He opened it slowly. Inside was a single line handwritten. She's talking. Evan stared at the words. Camilla, the shadow he thought he'd outrun. Agent Bennett called an hour later. You heard, she said. Yes. She's naming people, Bennett continued. Big ones. Politicians, judges, financiers. Evan leaned against the dock railing. Why tell me? Bennett paused. Because she asked for you. Evan closed his eyes. Of course she did. They met one last time. Same visitation room, different power. Camilla looked smaller now, still sharp, but tired. I'm burning it all down, she said. They deserve it. Evan sat quietly. And you? He asked. Camilla smiled thinly. I get a lighter sentence, she said. Maybe sunlight. Evan studied her. You always knew how to survive, he said. Camilla nodded. And you always knew how to end things. Silence settled. Camilla leaned forward. I could make them listen to you, she said. Give you a seat at the table. Evan shook his head. I don't want a table, he said. I want a life. Camilla laughed softly. You think walking away makes you clean? No, Evan said. It makes me honest. Camilla's eyes hardened. Then why are you here? Evan met her gaze for a long moment. Then she nodded. You were never the crime. You were the consequence. Evan stood. Goodbye, Camilla. She didn't respond. She didn't need to. Weeks passed. Arrests followed. Resignations. Quiet collapses. The system swallowed its own. Evan watched from afar, untouched. One evening, a man approached him at the marina. Older, well-dressed, careful smile. You don't know me, but I know you. Evan's muscles tensed. Should I? He asked. The man shook his head. No, he said, but others do, and they're grateful. Evan's voice went cold. Then they shouldn't be. The man smiled thinly. Consider this an offer.
Evan didn't hesitate. No. The man blinked. You didn't even hear it. I heard enough, Evan said. I'm done being useful. The man studied him, then nodded. Fair, he said, and walked away. Evan watched him go. The shadow tried one last time. It failed. That night, Evan stood on the dock, watching the moon ripple across dark water. He thought about doors, vault doors, prison doors, office doors, and the one he'd finally closed himself. His phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. She kept her word. Evan deleted it. Some things didn't need confirmation. He breathed in the salt air. The past was still there, but it was quiet now, waiting. And Evan had learned something important. You don't defeat shadows by chasing them. You defeat them by stepping into the light.
The man who walked away. The town woke slowly. Fishing boats drifted out before sunrise. Coffee steamed from chipped mugs. The world continued, unconcerned with men who once thought they controlled it. Evan liked that. The last of the trials ended quietly. No spectacle. No victory speeches. Just judgments entered into records that would gather dust while lives adjusted around the absence of power. Camilla Hart was sentenced. Not lightly, not harshly. Precisely. She never appealed. She never spoke Evan's name again. That was her final bargain. Agent Bennett sent one final message. It's done. Evan stared at the words for a long moment, then turned the phone off. Done didn't mean healed. It meant finished. And there was a difference. Weeks later, Evan stood on the dock as the sun sank low, painting the water copper and gold. His hands were rough now, scarred in honest ways. A younger man on the boat beside him asked, "You ever think about leaving?" Evan smiled faintly. "I did," he said. "Turns out I already did." The man laughed, not understanding. That was okay. Evan visited his mother one last time that year. They sat together, watching birds gather in the trees. "You look happy," she said. "I'm not," Evan replied gently. "But I'm at peace." She nodded. "That's better," she said. Before he left, she pressed something into his hand, an old watch. "It was your father's," she said. "Time doesn't forgive, but it can be respected." Evan closed his fingers around it. That night, Evan walked the shoreline alone. He thought about the robbery, about the door, about 14 years stolen, and the strange truth that followed. Revenge hadn't given him his life back. Choice had. He stopped, looked out at the dark water, and spoke aloud, just once. "I forgive you." Not for them, for himself. The next morning, Evan packed light. No burner phones, no maps, no contingency plans. Just clothes, the watch, and a future that didn't need defending. He left town without ceremony. No one followed. No one needed to. Somewhere far behind him, the system continued grinding forward. Cases opened, cases closed, names forgotten. But Evan Cole walked into anonymity not as a ghost, but as a man who had faced the worst of himself and chosen differently. He had been betrayed. He had been imprisoned. He had been consumed by revenge. And in the end, he had survived it all. Not by destroying others, but by refusing to become what they made him. The end.